Evening. I'd like to acknowledge that we're recording today from the traditional territory of Fort William First Nation and PQP2 Module, and we'd like to recognize the long history that there is in this land of many other Indigenous peoples, including the Métis who settled here. And we're looking forward to talking a little bit about what we've been reading over the past 2 weeks.
So we're in Module 4. Actually, we just finished Module 4, moving into Module 5 right now. So we thought we'd do a little recap on Module 4 after reading some of the posts and just getting engaged with what's going on. So the first one is, I think I call it the dry one, but I actually find it really quite interesting. And if you're a numbers person, you might as well. So you got a chance to look at the technical paper, and that gives you the grant layout for the year. We'll be looking for one soon for the new grant layouts and technical paper coming from our new government shortly. But really it was such an opportunity for you to think about how in a school, because once you're in a school you will be running the school budget in conjunction perhaps with your vice principals and others, but you ultimately make the decision on where to allocate some of those funds that are within your budget. Some naturally will be already allocated by the board to certain sort of pots of money, whether they're maintenance or custodial supplies or even special needs funding. However, you will have likely, depending on the size of your school, a significant amount of discretionary funding. And so one of the things they're always thinking about is, but it's never enough, I always say. One of the things we're always thinking about though is where do we put that money to best serve our students, and how do we keep it student focused? And so some housekeeping things. One of the things I do each month is to run a budget report, and I'm sure every board has an opportunity for principals to be able to do that. And it lets me know how much I have, how much I've allocated, how much I've spent, and then gives me sort of a percentage of where I am. And that keeps me on track, much like your household budget, so that I don't go through all of my money before the end. But
I'm going to add to that, because I don't have an accounting degree like Christy. I would run those reports, but then I would meet about every 2 months with someone from our finance department. Either I would go see them or they would come and see me, and we would just comb through the budgets to make sure that we were on track. Yeah. And a big part of our discussions, because a couple of schools I inherited quite a large fundraising account, and there's really tight rules around how long you can hold money, how the money's raised. So I had to work with finance to ensure that we brought our school in line with meeting those requirements for that fundraising money.
So I think it was interesting to see some of the posts, but it's something you need to always keep in the forefront is where are you spending that money, because there'll be lots of demands. Folks are always, can I have this? Can I get this? And for the classroom, can we have these, for students? And you need to think about kind of constantly how does it serve the student population the best. So
that's good. The second piece that we had to look at in 4.2 were the data sets. So we had asked you to choose a data set and do an analysis of it. A large number of the people, I guess given the context of being in Ontario, looked at EQAO results from grade 3, 6, grade 9 or grade 10, OSSLT or the grade 9 math. And most people chose their own schools, but it is interesting what you can find out from EQAO and what you can't find out from EQAO. And when I worked at a turnaround school, the ministry, we looked at those results a lot. Yeah. But one of the things that I was reminded is that those are just like slivers of that whole curriculum. So it's really, really important to understand that EQAO is a snapshot at a point in time, in a particular 5 days of a child's life for a particular set of students. But also recognizing that it's not the entire curriculum. It doesn't assess music or art or drama or a whole bunch of the English or the math curriculum for that matter, or science, although a little bit of science is in there. So, understanding what you can actually get out of it and what you can't get out of it, I think is really an important piece, because everyone tends to be either I love it or hate it. Not recognizing it does have a purpose and it can be useful.
I had an opportunity to have a meeting with a staff member, and I think I've said it before, when you learn to dig down into it, there is some very valuable information you can get from that snapshot, but you want to start looking at things like the detailed information item reports and the individual item reports, so those are the IIRs. So yeah, those reports give you some very good detailed information about what was tested and where the kids are on that. And then it also looks at the errors, which is really critical, as you know, I'm sure, going through your own planning.
And then we also had a few people look at PISA as well, which looks at a big of a international competitions, I would call it, but assessments. And then we had a question about from Jim?
Well, we had a question about P. It's now PCAP, but it was SAIP, the Schools Achievement Indicators Program. That was the precursor to the PCAP, which is done every 3 years, and it's a large meta-assessment
across the entire country.
So that was an interesting one. I think Jim is in section G, I believe.
G.
So if you're in section G, look for maybe Jim's post, Jim Pre.
And then moving forward, we actually had a little look that came up. You know how your phone shoots up little feeds of news. And there was some news that came out of Vancouver today. So it came up on Christy's phone, and then we looked it up online. And the title is Vancouver Schools Test New Report Cards Scrapping Letter Grades for Elementary Students. So interestingly, as I read through it, they were talking about currently how kids are assessed in schools. And their goal is to get away from the content area and assigning a level of achievement to looking at their new curriculum, which is about communication, thinking, and social competencies, where learning is continuous. And I think we all know the data that the minute you put a mark on a piece of work, a student stops reading, they just look at the mark. So if you only write feedback to the student, and I think that's where this is probably coming from, some of that research.
That derives out of Black and still, is it Stigwell's 1998 research. So there was a direct comment in the article regarding the link to growth mindset when you don't use letter grades, and the opportunity to give realistic and authentic feedback so that students actually are continuously improving throughout their school career, was what the quotes are saying.
And then what they had talked about here is the report cards will tell a narrative, reminding me a little bit about the FDK reports. But students' learning journey, where they are, less reliance on report cards, and interesting enough, more regular communication with parents and guardians. Yeah. So really upping the communication levels between school and home.
And I think we've seen that trend within our own classrooms and schools. I know all of you have seen Seesaw and some of the class dojos and some of the other, there's just multiple ways of communicating now out there with parents, and I know teachers are doing it daily.
Snapchat,
and
Twitter,
several
Facebook
times a day.
Pages in schools.
Yeah, several times a day. So we'll see an emphasis continuing on that, hopefully, if we learn some lessons from Vancouver, BC.
Okay. So on that note, we look forward to our continued reading. You may have noticed that we're starting to populate some of the marks with feedback. But the course so far has been really great. People have been writing, been thoughtful, been encouraging to each other, but also asking some really good questions of each other. So that's always a good thing.
Okay. So have a wonderful evening and a wonderful rest of your week. We'll see you in Module 5.
All right. Take care.
Take care.